Good morning and welcome to Into the Terminal episode 8. Today we're going to be talking about registration of our systems. My name is Eric the IT Guy Hendricks, and joining me as always is my trusty co-host, Scott McBrien. All right, so we are halfway through Jumpstart Week. We started out by getting signed up on the customer portal. We've gone in and downloaded an ISO. We've looked at our subscriptions. Yesterday we had a very successful install, which surprises all of us in the live demo world, and so we kind of wrapped up yesterday's episode with a working system with a server and a UI. Today we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the subscription piece, how that affects the client side. So whatever system you're going to install, that includes attaching a subscription and activating certain repositories. So let's dive in. So what we're looking at here is our vanilla RHEL 8.5 server, and this system is currently unregistered. And so, in order to get any Red Hat packages beyond the initial install, we're going to have to actually register that system. And to do so, we use a command called subscription-manager. Then, if we do a tac register, then remember back to Monday's episode, or episode 6, we created a username and password. So this command works just right out of the box with subscription manager register, and it'll ask us for our username and then our password. And what that'll do is that'll kick off a handshake between subscription.rhsm.redhat.com and our local machine.
And this will take a little bit of time. So while we're waiting, you'll recall from our installation episode that we actually included this credential in the installation. And it turns out it'll also get logged in your Anaconda Kickstart file that comes out the other side. So registering by hand in this way may not be necessary, depending on how you performed your installation.
Yeah, that's a great point. In fact, I would argue it's actually easier to do that on the front end during the installation process. So you see that it's registered. We get a checksum as well as confirmation that our system has been registered with its given name, and now we have a registered system. Uh, so if we do a subscription manager status, we can get a little bit more information. Luna, I'm really glad you're playing along there. It said it worked good with using Anaconda, so that's great to hear. And so in this situation, we're using simple content access, which, like Scott mentioned the other day, just kind of as a is kind of a vanilla approach. It usually just works. Patent pending. Scott, do you want to say a little bit more about simple content access? We kind of hinted at it yesterday.
Sure. So my account has been set up with simple content access enabled. And what that means is that when I register a system, it will just register. Um, it doesn't matter what entitlements I have, how many systems are registered, like it just works. And it's up to me as the administrator to make sure that like we reconcile the systems versus what entitlements I've got. But it's a way that we can ease a lot of the subscription management burden so that administrators don't have to bear it. We have other tools like Subscription Watch, which is available through the Insights portal, console.redhat.com, that'll actually show you a breakdown of the different subscriptions you're using if you're interested in reconciling that list.
Awesome. So we've got our subscription. So we'd be able to update packages, install new packages. But before we do, let's go ahead and add an additional repository. One that comes to mind is Ansible.
So, Eric, it might be worthwhile to just look at what we've already got
Sure.
enabled. Okay. So one of the great things about Subscription Manager is it's got a little bit of complex syntax. However, it is bash completion aware. So if you have the bash completion RPM installed, you can hit tab and it will try and offer you suggestions of what you can put at the different components of the Subscription Manager command.
So while this is compiling, uh, Luna brought a good question in the chat. Would you like to explain what auto attach means?
Yeah, so you're actually looking at it right now in this list enabled output. So for Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8, we made it so that when you subscribe a Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8 system, it will automatically, once a subscription is assigned, enable these two repositories for you, the base OS repo and the AppStream repo. And for most RHEL 8 stuff, like that's a lot of where all the software is. And it's only for those extra pieces, like what we were just talking about, Ansible, where we'd have to do a little bit more subscription manager management to get access to that software. So for Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8, we automatically attach these repos to the system. There is also an auto attach option, which may also look at things like system purpose to attach a subscription to it. But again, using simple content access, I don't have to worry about what subscription gets assigned to this box.
So coming up in the future, we actually have an advanced subscription management episode planned, and we'll talk about simple content access and some of the auto attach features, that kind of thing, in a little bit greater detail. So we've got just the two basic repos uh, for uh, for our RHEL 8 system. For those of you playing along with the RHEL 9 beta, it should be very, very similar. Uh, for RHEL 7, it's a little bit more involved, but again, that's a conversation for another day. Okay, so we've got the two repos installed. Um, so if we do a dash dash list, that'll list, I believe, everything, whether it's enabled or not. And so that command will take a few minutes, but you'll end up seeing what amounts to like probably 100 or so repositories, and that ranges from satellite to Ansible to HA or high availability. Um, I there's a bunch of others. I think JBoss and so there's just hundreds of repositories that are available to be added. Some of those require an additional subscription. Some of those require add-ons to the RHEL subscription. But as you can see, like looking right here, there's middleware, SAP, um, whew, uh, the satellite
It's a
tools
lot.
repository I mentioned. Yeah, it's quite a few. I'd guess well over 100. So let's go ahead and let's pick on the Ansible repository. So there's Ansible 2.9 that should be available here in our list. So if we rerun that command with a grep, should come back a little bit quicker because it's going out to the Red Hat CDN and it's polling for the entire list and then pulling that back. So it does tend to take a few minutes to go through that. But what we're going to do here in a moment is we're going to do a repos-enable and the official name of the repository, and that'll make all of those packages available here to our system.
Yeah, and that's why we're using the grep, right? We want to look through those available repositories, and then we need the repo ID in order to do that enable command. That's our next step. So I think we have it right here on the screen. Right, that guy right there.
Yeah, I think so. But we can always just type it in and find out.
Okay, that copy paste was not as clean as I would like, so let me clean that up. Okay.
So subscription manager repos enable for Ansible 2.9, and then it's got some versioning information. So we get the correct packages. It'll go out in a poll. What it's doing in the background is making sure that we do have a subscription, an active subscription for that. It's pulling down some of the metadata for the list of packages. I'm sure there's probably some mirror lists activities going on behind the scenes as well. But once it's enabled, what that'll do is it'll allow us to install packages from that repository right from our system. And what's really great about that zooming out even further, is if we do a DNF update here in a moment, or if we do a DNF install on some packages from the Ansible repo, and then a few days or a few weeks from now, when there's some updated packages in there, if we do a yum update or a DNF update, what it'll actually do is it'll pull from all active repos. So that'll hit the AppStream repo, the Ansible repo, as well as the base OS repo. So once the repositories are enabled, DNF just has a visibility into all of those. So let's go ahead and do a DNF install on Ansible.
So if we tried to do this before we had enabled the repo, what would have happened, Eric?
I don't think there's any Ansible packages in the base OS repository, so it would basically say that a package was not found. But it scrolled by really quickly. But if you notice, there was actually a third repository right before it kicked off. So we've got some packages that are being pulled from base OS from AppStream, but the Ansible package itself came from that Ansible 2.9. So it pulls on dependencies from the other two repositories, but Ansible 2.9, the Ansible package, wouldn't have been found if we tried this beforehand. And for those of you playing along from last week, we could have done a DNF list packages, and could have seen where that Ansible package came from. So now doing an Ansible -- version, we can see that we got Ansible 2.9.27, as well as a configuration file and some additional information about the Ansible utility itself. So that kind of covers our critical path. That's a little bit longer than we usually target, but I feel like the context was important. So we've talked about registering a system and using our username and password, but let's assume, because for systems administrators this is often true, we're deploying a new environment and we've got 20 or 30 some odd servers. Short of using a tool like Tmux or Screen, do we really want to go to those 20 or 30 some odd servers and type in subscription-manage and type in our username and our password? I don't know about you, but when I'm in a hurry, I tend to fat finger my password more often than I type it correctly. So if only there were a mechanism that we could use on the customer portal side to automate that, Scott.
Oh, if only. I feel like you're setting me up, Eric.
I'm trying to. Some
All
days
right,
more
let's see if I
successful
can
than others.
switch away from. Let me create another terminal. I'm going to toggle my screen share in just a second.
Sure. In fact, we'll make it easy for you real quick. So if you're following along, definitely join us in chat. You can join us live on actually right now every morning at 9 a.m. Central. Sorry, I'll let you all do the math. And you can join us Monday through Thursday for dark mode at 8 p.m. Central. Scott has a chance to kick me off and hang out with everybody. So you definitely get a lot of opportunity live to join in on the conversation. Hopefully, we've proven ourselves faithful to answer questions as they come in, or at least commit to answer them within a reasonable amount of time. So definitely join us live. So if you've been following Jumpstart Week, the day one we registered an account on the customer portal, and Scott's logged into his account here. So if we go back into the subscriptions tab, the first link on the top bar there, this is where we were talking about the different repositories that were, or the different subscriptions that were available, how many of those systems have been registered. It's kind of hidden, but if you go across that next column there where you see overview and subscriptions, there is a manage dropdown. So if you click on manage, you'll see an activations keys option. So if you go ahead and click on activation keys, that'll bring you up to some good important information for your organization. So there is an organization ID as well as an activation key. So this is kind of that same 1-2 punch that we need to get our systems registered. But this also means that you're not passing credentials um, over the internet or having to type your password over and over. So what we'll start out with is we'll give our activation key a name, and this is human readable. So, gosh, this is human readable. So this is more for the operator's sake. While Scott has a ridiculous example here, this could drill down into something a little bit more descriptive, like production satellites or development middleware or anything that tells you what these packages or what these keys are for. You can have just kind of a generic. I tend to rotate my keys every 6 to 12 months. So a lot of times it'll be some kind of designator for my home lab and then say the year. Um, and if we want to set our service level, as we've mentioned a couple of times, developer for the developer for individual subscription is self-service only, so we can actually go ahead and pre-populate that here, or leave no preference. And Luna, here's that auto attach that you were talking about. Again, I don't know that it's as critical for RHEL 8 and beyond, but we can go ahead and leave that enabled. And then if we scroll down here, this is where we get to the more powerful piece of activation keys. Yes, it is nice to have a key that you don't have to input your username and password every time, but just instead define your organization ID and your activation key name. But here we can actually go ahead and as I mentioned, setting a label for your different activation keys, you can actually go ahead and enable. Let's take today's example. You can go ahead and set it up with a developer subscription for individuals, and then you can also go ahead and enable it for the Ansible repository. So if we were to rebuild our machine that we were working on today, we could actually already pre-populate those repositories in this activation key.
So there is a slight difference there. Um, so it turns out that the Red Hat Enterprise Linux subscription includes access to the Ansible repos for the express purpose of using RHEL system roles and executing playbooks from Red Hat maintained properties like the OpenSCAP scanner, remediation, or insights playbooks. So this Ansible stuff up here is actually for Ansible Automation Platform, which is a different product. So I would suggest an alternative example might be that we use our RHEL server and HA add-on.
Perfect. That works. Rich,
All right.
I could feel Rich Dorito just shudder in the force when I misspoke there.
Yeah. All right. So
Anything else we want to talk about on this particular screen?
yeah, so what we're really doing is when systems register with this activation key that we're defining, not only will they get the normal RHEL um, repo, so that was the base OS and the app stream, but thanks to me including the high availability subscription as well with this activation key, it'll also be enabled, or the repository will be enabled for the HA add-on software, right? Or if we were going to also do extended update support for this box, right, I could enable that so that we would get the repositories for it too, right? So that's what we're doing here is we're saying when we're using this activation key, these are the things that the system should automatically have access to.
And this becomes really powerful when you start layering on some of the other tools like system roles and Ansible playbooks, because you can actually just specify the activation keys within your playbook and basically take a minimal install. And depending on the arguments that you attach to that Ansible playbook, you can really get into a place where you're building out systems very, very rapidly and with basically running one command. So imagine being able to stand up, say, a satellite server, just by saying that I need a new box and it needs to be a satellite server, and then Ansible in the background. Right, I'm getting a little bit into the weeds here, but system roles, Ansible playbooks, and uh, combining activation keys, it all gets into a place where you can really automate a lot of the systems administration skills that you need. And as we get later into our launch month here, we'll get in. We'll touch on some of those things like writing Bash scripts and writing Ansible playbooks, as well as system roles at a very high level. And then we could definitely point you to more advanced content. I don't want to say advanced, but more in-depth content to on how to do those tools. So let's go ahead and create our activation key. And then we're doing okay on time. So do we want to unsubscribe our other system and resubscribe with our new key?
Um, so about that. So as we're going through, remember how you always tease me about not showing our credentials on screen?
Uh-huh.
So yeah,
And
we're not
that's
going to do that.
that's fair.
Um, so when you register, it would be a subscription manager uh, uh, register woo, uh, activation key, 2 dashes.
You unshared your screen.
Oh, thank you. This happened to me
You're
in dark mode, and like no one told me, and so I'm just like talking into the void.
No, you were talking. It just people thought you were seeing things. There we go. All right.
All right, and we would also need uh, there's another option that is there it is, org. So so you need two things. One is you need the organization ID, which is what's shown on the activation keys page, and the other one is the activation key name as well. And so um, it occurs to me that today I will be redoing all of our activation keys since one of our screens showed the org ID that I didn't really want to show.
True. Or I could probably blur that out after the fact.
All
Anyway,
right.
so good point. Um, Yeah, definitely don't share your org ID. Org ID is automatically assigned when you create your user account, or if you create an account and you are joined to an organization. Say you work for Acme Inc. or something, that org ID would be attached to the Acme Inc. company entity within the customer portal. The activation key is something that you name yourself when you create an activation key. So if we were to go through and run this command, it would actually pull down the base repositories. It would assign a subscription to this box. It would add in the HA add-on for high availability, which allows you to tie multiple RHEL systems together to get to work in tandem, almost in a cluster. Not almost, but run in a cluster. Um, let's see. Double checking chat. I'm Morning Linux Ninja.
So it might be worthwhile, Eric, to go through the other way. So we've shown how you could register with an activation key, and that'll get you some of the additional repositories. And for this to be successful on my already registered machine, I could use a dash dash force, which would force it to re-register, or I might do something like unregister and then register with the activation key. But you can also go into an already registered system through the web UI and adjust its subscriptions. So I don't know if that'd be worthwhile taking a look at.
Sure. Let's run through that real quick. Because believe it or not, we actually got through our list for today, and we're only at 24 minutes. We're doing good.
All right. So I went through and looked at the systems in the customer portal, and then it gave me a big list, and I picked the one that we were looking at, right? The RHEL system. So we saw this the other day when we were going through the customer portal and looking at systems a little bit. Somebody had asked about the information that was included when we registered, and we kind of went through this a little bit. But what I want to take a look at today is the subscriptions tab. So this will show you what this system is consuming. Oh, and He is a simple content access, so he just kind of gets to do what he wants. But you can attach subscriptions to the box if you wanted. And this might be needed for some older systems that didn't automatically attach stuff. All right, so it should already have oof, this one. And then our activation key also attached high availability, so I'll
Hmm.
just go ahead and select that one too, and bam. So the next time the system checks in, it will see that it has new subscriptions available, and that's how you go through the other way to modify a system's configured Red Hat software.
We did have a good question in chat come back in here. Uh, Luna asks, and I would guess you need a subscription to be able to use the RPM package CDNs. I'm assuming that's referring to the production Red Hat CDNs.
That's correct. And so, like for I think getting started, having a developer for individual subscription, right? That's what gets you that Red Hat entitlement that you can then register your RHEL box and get access to the RHEL RPM repositories through the Red Hat infrastructure. But the other place where subscriptions are interesting is when you also have additional products that you run on top of RHEL. So things like satellite is stored in a separate repo, which means you have to assign a satellite subscription to that box. Or the HA add-on, which gives you high availability failover cluster capability. So for that, you have to attach the high availability subscription, which then allows you to enable the high availability repos to install that software, just like we did for Ansible, right? Where we had to go in and enable the repo, and then we were able to install the Ansible package. So for high availability, we'd go in and enable the HA subscription for the box, and then we'd be able to do a repo list and see that it's there, and then do a enable to add it to our configured repositories, and then we could install the software that goes along with the HA product. All right, so this is a good point. Like we've we've done a lot with subscriptions over the last 3-ish years to make them or try to make them more seamless to users, right? So it's actually kind of heartening that Linux Ninja was like, "What's this subscription thing?" Because maybe they've never had to deal with subscriptions, and so it's like all sunshine and rainbows for Linux Ninja. Um, but
Well, I think
you know,
Linux Ninja was just being facetious.
I'm going to choose to believe it was sunshine and rainbows.
I'm good with that. All right, so with that, we can bring today's episode to an end on sunshine and rainbows and simple content access. Really kind of hides some things that used to be kind of a pain in subscriptions, but are now apparently sunshine mixed with rainbows. So we're in good shape. So join us tonight and join Scott, probably. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it tonight. There's a flu bug going around the Hendricks household right now, so um, it's been great fun. But join Scott tonight around I believe 9 p.m. Eastern, and for dark mode for re-airing of this content. Join us tomorrow for day 4 of Jumpstart Week, where we cover disk management. So we talked about that a little bit in our install episode, talking about using partitions in the installer. But what happens when you need to add an additional disk or just need more disk space on your server? So join us tomorrow for disk management as we cover day 4 of Jumpstart Week. So be sure to like and subscribe, share a friend, share a friend. Yes, share a friend. Always share friends. With that, please like and subscribe and tell a friend that we stumble through. And remember, we are professionals. Until then,
Yep.
we will we will see y'all tomorrow.